As you know, the controller's race is heating up now. And so often, I was a New York State Assembly member for 5 years. I was chair of the Land Use Committee for 7 years in the City Council. But so often, folks that question me or talk to me focus on issues that I dealt with that are considered, quote unquote, women's issues.
Right.
You have an amazing history in Congress of dealing with so much legislation for every walks of life.
Right.
But I know that most folks talk about your experience with the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment, and I just wanted your thoughts on that. I just know how diverse your focus was, but the fact that folks talk only about that sometimes is amazing to me.
Well, and one of the things that we did do was we did get some legislation passed for pension equity for women.
Right.
And it was interesting that during the '84 campaign, President Reagan actually signed the bill and took credit for it, which I thought was amazing. But it was, when I got elected, I asked for committees that were important to my district and my constituents. I asked for public works because we had, we had problems with infrastructure. I mean, those were things that I cared about for the city. I had asked for aviation because I had subcommittee because I had, LaGuardia Airport was in my district.
Clearly,
so I got on those committees in order to make sure that I could do for my constituents. And the constituents were larger than just my congressional district. The constituents were the district, the city of New York,
right.
Your constituency
My
in this
constituents.
race. And so one of the things I said was, those are the committees that I want. And then in addition to that, I chose the Select Committee on Aging and asked that I get appointed to that. Now, none of those really are places for women's issues. But, when I got elected in '78, I think there were 17 women in the Congress. And if we didn't speak up on some of these things, it's not that the guys wouldn't support it. I mean, you can't get legislation passed by 17 women on both sides of the aisle.
Right.
But if we brought them up, they'd say, "Oh, gee, really? That's right," and they would go along with us. That was the purpose of looking at it. On a jobs bill, Pat Schroeder, Lindy Boggs, and I made sure that when they're setting aside for different minorities, when they're setting aside construction jobs, we got to set aside for women.
Right.
How was that done? One, it was fair to do, at least 5%. But the second thing was, we used our political power. It was, these guys wanted us to come into their districts because they knew that women were going to go out and vote.
Women vote.
And they wanted to be sure that they knew that we women were supportive of them. So we kind of bargained, and we got it done. But, the thing that if we didn't bring up these issues, the pension legislation, that was not out of my committee. I did my committee work, and then in addition, I did these other things because there were only, as I said, 17 of us, and we worked in a bipartisan manner.
Right.
We worked in a bipartisan because our goal was, to achieve the conclusion. And that's, again, with your position. You get in there, you're going to do the job of controller. I mean, you know where you're going, what the office needs, what should be done, and you'll do that job. But you will also, because you're in that position, be reflective of what can be done and should be done as far as taking a look at how these things affect women and affect their lives.